All right, so after reviewing both the HDX and the HDX Pro versions of the Sig Zulu 6 binoculars, the most common question I get by a landslide is which pair do I buy? There are 7 different pairs of binoculars in the Zulu 6 line, each of them with slightly different characteristics, and no one wants to waste their money buying the wrong pair. So I have used all 3 of these binoculars extensively over the last 3 months so that I could help you decide which pair best suits your specific needs. We are going to walk through a detailed, honest breakdown of every model with detailed recommendations tailored to each hunter's specific needs. I think the most helpful way to frame this review is to look at the 2 different lines, the HDX and the HDX Pro first. So let's start with a feature comparison of the 2 lines. So for light transmission, in the HDX, you have approximately 74%. The HDX Pro came out with improved coatings that got that up to 86%. Image stabilizing in the HDX has 2 modes, scan and target. The HDX Pro has 1 mode driven by an accelerometer called OmniScan. More details on that later. For battery life, the HDX uses 1 battery and it can last up to 30 hours. HDX Pro uses 2 batteries and those last up to 40 hours. Both models take AA batteries. Field of view ranges from 208 feet to 270 feet in the HDX line, depending on which model you get. And the HDX Pro is 199 feet at 1,000 yards in all 3 models. If we compare the 16X models of both, 22 ounces for the HDX, 34 ounces for the HDX Pro. Now the magnification and objective size. So 4 different models in the HDX line. You have a 10 by 30, and then you have a 12, 16, and 20 by 42. All 3 models in the HDX Pro have a 50 millimeter objective with 14, 16, and 18 magnifications available. The price for the HDX ranges from $900 for the 10 by 30s all the way up to $1,200 for the 20 by 42s. The HDX Pros start at $1,500 for the 14X and go all the way up to $1,700 USD for the 18X. And both of them come with Sig's infinite lifetime warranty. So what are some key takeaways from the feature overview? First of all, the Pro improves brightness, clarity, and low light performance. But the price you're gonna pay for that is that it's heavier, bulkier, and more expensive. I will say though that I prefer the ergonomics of the Pro model. You'll notice they have the 2 batteries located on the side, and this is the perfect location for your thumbs to kind of wrap around, and it gives you more of a classic binocular feel. They're a little more well balanced. When you look at the HDX, the battery is along the middle, so your hands kind of end up going over top of each other. They still work and it's still light, but I will say like the hand feel is just much more stable and comfortable in the HDX Pro. If you're doing a ton of low light glassing or you want to do it all binocular, at this point, I would steer you towards the HDX Pro. And if you're looking for a lighter, less expensive binocular, something that's going to be a little bit better one-handed, maybe stand hunting or elk in the rut is more your cup of tea, then I would probably lean you more towards the HDX. Okay, now that we've looked at the 2 lines, let's break up the models in each line. So the first model in the HDX line is this 10 by 30. Now the thing that really stands out about the 10 by 30 is the field of view, because basically all other 6 models have essentially the same field of view. It's either 208 feet at 1,000 yards or 199 feet at 1,000 yards, which is, functionally speaking, the same field of view. These bad boys clock in at 270 feet at 1,000 yards, so 35% greater field of view. I specifically picked these up for archery elk because I knew I was going to be in some tight timber situations in Montana. I wanted maximum field of view when you're just looking for a little tine or something coming into a call. And I wanted the ability to be able to glass one-handed while I held my bow in the other hand. Now the exit pupil on these is 3 millimeters. Because the exit pupil is such a defining characteristic or such a variable that's going to carry so much weight in our decision-making progress, we're going to do a quick little lesson about exit pupil. So you calculate the size of your exit pupil by taking the diameter of your objective lens and dividing it by the magnification. So what you do here, 30 millimeter lens, 10x magnification, 30 divided by 10 is 3. There is a 3 millimeter exit pupil in these binoculars. So then we move up. These are the 12 by 42s in the HDX. You can also get a 16 by 42 and a 20 by 42. All three of these field of view, as I mentioned before, 208 feet at 1,000 yards. The only real difference is the exit pupil. So the 12 power comes in at 3.5 millimeters, the 16 power at 2.6, and the 20 power at 2.1. So you can see that the 20 power, while it has greater magnification than the 12 power, you're paying a hefty price for that. It's a 3.6 millimeter exit pupil compared to a 2.1 millimeter exit pupil. So you are basically cutting the amount of light in half that's actually gonna reach your eye. And I think that's the part of this that most people aren't thinking through clearly enough. They're just like, well, if it has the same field of view and a larger magnification, it's gonna be better. But at 74% light transmission, this is already like kind of mediocre glass. It's not alpha glass by any stretch of the imagination. And then when you reduce that light collection capability even further by minimizing the size of the exit pupil, you really take a hit. So if you're gonna live in the HDX line, the real question you need to ask yourself is, what's the smallest exit pupil I'm willing to live with? Or how much early morning and kind of late dusk glassing am I going to be doing? And how important is the low light performance of the binocular to me? So next we move up to the HDX Pros. Now the first thing you wanna look at is the improved glass quality. Technically, the glass hasn't changed, but they added different coatings. So it's the same coatings that are in the Zulu 10 line, which is kind of like their premium line of glass. So you've increased clarity and you've also increased light transmission from approximately 74% up to approximately 86%, so a total of 12% increase in light transmission. You also have a 50 millimeter objective instead of a 42 millimeter objective. They blackened the edges of the prism to reduce glare. In certain lights with the HDX line, you will kind of get this like flickering glare in your binoculars, and they blackened the edges of the prism in the HDX Pro to reduce that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, they moved to OmniScan. So when you have the regular HDX, you turn them on once, you will notice that this little light here goes green. If you turn them off and then on again quickly, you will notice this little light goes amber. When it's green, you are in scan mode, and when it's amber, you are in target mode. Basically, scan mode moves a little quicker and isn't quite as stabilized. Target mode moves much slower, but it can be jerkier because if you move the binoculars too fast, it kind of jumps from one section to the other. I leave these in scan mode basically 95% of the time. So with the HDX Pros, you just turn them on. This little light goes green. Doesn't matter how many times you turn it on and off, it's just gonna stay green. And so when it's on, by default, it's in OmniScan mode. So there's an actual accelerometer in these. So when you are scanning quickly, it won't add as much stabilization, so it feels a little more natural. And when you slow down, it can tell you've slowed down, and it will increase the amount of stabilization applied to your sight picture. Now, this is tricky to get used to at first, because what's gonna happen is you're gonna feel like it's pulling you across. You kind of have to fight that urge to like keep moving the binoculars at one speed and kind of force it to slip into kind of the slower mode. Once you get used to it, the OmniScan mode is far superior to the dual scan mode in the HDX, and might be one of my favorite things about the HDX Pros, if not the increased light transmission. So again, you almost get a slightly vertigo-ish feeling at first, but once you get over that hump, OmniScan is fantastic. Literally the only difference between the 14, 16, and 18 power models is the exit pupil. So the 14 has an exit pupil of 3.6, 16, 3.1, and 18, 2.8. Let's go take a look at all of the models together and look at the exit pupils. So you can see by this graph I'm pulling up on the screen, the 14 by 50s have the largest exit pupil at 3.6. Then we go 12 by 42, and 16 by 50, and then so on and so forth down the graph. Now, I would like to highlight that my two favorite pairs, the 12 by 42 and the 16 by 50, are number 2 and number 3 on this list. And one of the reasons they're my favorite is I believe they are the ideal blend of magnification and exit pupil. But let's take a moment and talk about how a larger objective affects performance. So this is a 50 millimeter objective, and this is a 42 millimeter objective. So even if they had similar exit pupil sizes, you would still get an increased optical performance with the larger objective. Now, a larger objective lens physically collects more light because the lens is bigger, so it has a greater surface area. That light is then condensed down into the same size exit pupil in our example, but because of the largest surface area, the light passing through has a greater luminance. Now, this greater luminance approves edge-to-edge clarity, apparent brightness, contrast, and low light performance. For example, let's say we take a 10 by 50 binocular and an 8 by 40. Both of these would have a 5 millimeter exit pupil. The 10 by 40 would have the nicer image because it has the larger surface area, even though the exit pupils are the same. I prefer the 10 by 30s when I'm archery hunting and I need single-handed performance. I think these would also be excellent options if you're gonna be sitting in a tree stand a lot. Of the three 42 millimeter versions, the 12 power is my favorite because I think it has more than enough magnification for realistic distances that you're gonna be using a binocular to glass, and it's the brightest by far of those three. Of the three HDX Pro versions, I prefer the 16. You get near spotting scope level magnification at 16 power, and still with the size of the exit pupil and the increased size of the objective and the extra coatings on the HDX Pro, you actually get a brighter image at 16 power with the HDX Pro than you do with the 12 power in the HDX, even though the exit pupil is slightly smaller. Before we dive into my recommendations about which one might suit your needs best, I want to do a quick ad for Mindful Hunter Outfitting. So this review should be coming out in the first week of November. I have one last minute spot available for an any weapon mule deer hunt in British Columbia. It's going to be the last week of November. I was just hunting there last week. I was hunting for myself and a buddy of mine. We both took beautiful mule deer. I'll throw those up on the screen right now. This is a fantastic area to hunt mule deer in. I was pleasantly surprised by the density of the mule deer. I kind of been keeping my eye on everything since spring bear hunting. I hung a bunch of cameras. All the scouting paid off. We harvested 2 gorgeous mule deer. Super excited about that. Also, I know for some of us, fall season is wrapping up quickly and there's not that many hunts left and we're already looking forward to the spring. I do have some availability left for spring black bear hunts in British Columbia. So if you are interested in either the single last minute opening I have for mule deer or booking a hunt in the spring for black bear, you can email me, jay@mindfulhunter.com. Now I could run through an infinite number of hunting circumstances and hunting styles and tell you for each one what, in my opinion, would be the best one of these 7 different options in the Sig Zulu line. But instead, I'm going to give you a framework comprised of 4 variables, and then I'm going to empower you assess your needs across each of those 4 variables, and then that's going to lead you into which of these 7 options is best for you. So here's your 4 variables: magnification, field of view, light transmission / glass quality, and weight / size. So the idea here is I want you to look at these 4 variables and decide which one is most important to you. If you do mostly big mountain hunting like I do, then low light performance and magnification are number 1 and number 2. Therefore, you're likely gonna end up selecting one of the HDX Pro line. Now, if you do mostly spot and stock archery, elk in the rut, whitetail tree stand hunting, you need something lighter. You're not quite as worried about magnification. Maybe cost is also a primary concern for you. That is going to lead you more towards the HDX. Now, once you've decided which lineup you want to be in, HDX Pro or HDX, then you can decide on the trade-off between magnification and light transmission that best suits your needs. So again, just go over those. So again, we have 4 variables that are going to help us make our decision: magnification, field of view, light transmission / glass quality, and weight / size. Start with the thing that is the most important to you on the majority of your hunts. That will lead you to either the HDX Pro or the HDX. Once there, decide the compromise you're willing to make between magnification and low light performance. That's either going to lead you up in magnification or down in magnification. And then you can select which of the 3 or 4 models within each particular lineup is best going to suit your needs. And I would urge you to look at what you're doing most. Don't look at like, oh, for 2 days a year, I'm going to be doing a whitetail stand hunt at my buddy's property. So I want something light and one-handed. But the rest of the year, I'm scouting for mule deer and I'm super focused on trophy class in Idaho. And then in reality, you would want the HDX Pros. Like, you can still do almost most tasks with all of these. It's just focus on what you're going to be doing the most and get the model that will suit that need the best. You put a gun to my head and said you can only have one of the 7 models. What would it be? All day, every day, I'm going 16x50. I don't mind the added size. I don't mind the increased price. I love the OmniScan. I love the increased low light performance. 16x is just wild magnification. I do a lot of walking around, glassing for bears and deer really far away. Having that stabilized 16 power is just phenomenal. So you put a gun to my head, I'm saying 16x50s. However, for the majority of people, I think the 12x42s are actually the best all-arounder, and they're significantly more affordable than the 16x50s. I think they have the best balance of magnification and low light performance without getting into the increased quality of glass coatings like they have in the HDX Pro. They are also very light and they fit in binocular harnesses much better than the Pro lineup. And finally, like I mentioned earlier, I love the 10x30s. They're the cheapest model. They come in at $900 and they're phenomenal for tight timber, one-handed use. They really are a bit of a specialty tool though. And if you were only gonna own one pair, for the majority of people, I would not recommend the 10x30s. Now, I did mention binocular harnesses earlier. It is challenging to find a binocular harness for the HDX Pro lineup, not because of how wide they are, but because of how tall they are. Now, my 2 favorite have been the Ravis Flex from Alaska Guide Creations and the Sentinel from Stone Glacier. Now, for me, if you're gonna go with a more minimal setup and you're not worried about a bunch of extra pockets, then the Ravis Flex is a superior choice. If you do want to carry a bunch of extra pockets like I do, I like to have my rangefinder, my phone, and then an accessory pouch underneath. The Stone Glacier Sentinel is much superior. I love Alaska Guide Creations. I think they make fantastic bino harnesses. I think the method they have of attaching their accessory pockets is garbage. Now, I will have a review on both of those bino harnesses out here in the next couple weeks. Did you find that review helpful? Do you like the fact that I don't have any financial relationships with any of the companies that I review, and the only thing that I have to care about is the value that you're able to take away from these reviews, and that you are better equipped to make buying decisions so you have to spend less money on gear and find the gear that works for you quicker? If you do, and you want to support these videos and see more of them, I would urge you to go join my website, mindful-reviews.com. Pick whatever subscription plan works for you best. We're almost up to 500 members. There's a thriving forum, an excellent community, and I would love to see you over there. Well, folks, there you have it. That is my attempt to answer the single most popular question I get. I've decided to buy a pair of Zulu 6, but I don't know which pair to get. Is there anything that I missed? Do you have any thoughts that are different to the ones I had? Please drop a note in the comment section below. I would love to carry this conversation on further down below. And if you could take a moment to engage with this content to help crank it up in the old algorithm, like, comment, share, subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, thank you for tuning in.